जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय द्वैत चंद्र जय भक्त वृंद जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय द्वैत चंद्र जय भक्त वृंद जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय द्वैत चंद्र जय भक्त वृंद ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं प्रजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती राधानाथ स्वामी नाम्ने नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नाम्ने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य वाचालम पक्वं खेते गिरिम यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानंद माधवम श्री चैतन्येश्वरम। हरे कृष्ण। So thank you so much. So we are still discussing chapter 22 on the science of devotional service, which are instructions by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami. And the current set of instructions are specifically on the topic of sadhana bhakti. Since we missed class the last week, a very quick revision. Lord Chaitanya explains that the goal of life is to achieve Krishna Prem. But Krishna Prem needs to be awakened within the heart. There are three levels of progress. There is sadhana, bhakti, bhava bhakti, and prema bhakti. Bhava and prema are spiritual because they originate from the soul. Bhava is the initial dawn of spiritual emotion. Prema is the full development of love of God. But until bhava bhakti comes, bhakti can still be done, but it is done as a practice. What does bhakti in practice mean? Bhakti in practice means bhakti without ecstatic emotion, without love. Done with faith. Yes, there may be some affection, there may be some taste, but not yet an experience of divine ecstatic love. Such bhakti is known as sadhana bhakti. Or rather, more specifically, sadhana bhakti is the practice of the limbs of bhakti through the material body and mind, because the spiritual body hasn't developed yet, through the material body and mind, with the goal of awakening bhava or spiritual emotion. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoy Shravanadi Shuddha Chitta Karoho Uday. That love for Krishna is the inherent potential of the jiva, but that potential is awakened, it is manifested by Shravana Adi, by practicing the processes, beginning with Shravan. What does beginning with Shravan mean? Shravan, Kirtan, Smaran, Archanam, Mandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedam, the whole works of Navavidha Bhakti. And that is the process of sadhana bhakti. process of sadhana bhakti is the process of practicing with the body and mind the various aspects of devotional service so as to awaken bhava. Of course, to be done under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. In fact, we discussed this in the last couple of classes. Amongst the 64 limbs of devotional service in practice, sadhana bhakti we discussed as two parts: Vaidhi sadhana bhakti and Raga Anuga sadhana bhakti. Vaidhi sadhana bhakti is the practice of sadhana bhakti following rules and regulations, where one develops strong faith in scriptures, in Guru, and directed by Guru Sadhu Shastra, one is practicing the process of bhakti as given by the scriptures and as guided by the Guru. And Lord Chaitanya gives 64 aspects or 64 ways in which this devotional service is rendered. Vaidhi sadhana. The essential ingredient here is faith in scripture. Regulated means one is guided by regulations. I ought to do this. I must do this because this is given in scripture, because this is instruction of Guru. So the driver, the impetus is actually faith. And one accepts a disciplined practice of the limbs of bhakti with the hope that soon bhava bhakti will develop if I continue to practice these limbs of bhakti in the association of pure devotees. Lord Chaitanya then explains to Sanatana Goswami that I have explained to you the process of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. Now I want to explain to you that sadhana bhakti has another approach also. Another approach. And that another approach of sadhana bhakti, which is known as Raga Anuga Bhakti, the essential difference between Vaidhi sadhana bhakti and Raga Anuga sadhana bhakti is the impetus. Is the impetus. What does impetus mean? Impetus means what is it that drives the practitioner? It is still practice. It is still sadhana, which means bhava has not developed. It is still practice with the aim of developing bhava. What is the driver? The driver for sadhana bhakti of type Vaidhi was scriptural rules and regulations. Oh, I must get up in the morning. I must chant my 16 rounds. I must read Bhagavatam every day. I must do this service. I must worship Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasam, Sakyam. Go on, day in, day out with faith in the association of devotees. One day, bhava will develop. Lord Chaitanya says, now Sanatan, hear from me. Now that you have heard about Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, hear from me about Raganuga Bhakti and its characteristics. Before going into Raganuga Bhakti, Lord Chaitanya says, Sanatan, let me explain to you the concept of Ragatmika Bhakta. So he explains this because the concept of Raga Anuga is related to the concept of Raga Atmika. Lord Chaitanya explains to Sanatan Goswami that in the spiritual world of Goloka Vrindavan, Lord Shyam Sundar along with Radharani are served personally by so many associates in pure love, intense attachment. And these eternal associates of the Lord who serve the Lord with great love, composed of intense attachment, are known as Ragatmika Bhakta. Not Raganuga, Raga Atmika. What does Raga Atmika means? Raga means intense attachment. Atmika means that they are totally imbued, their self is totally imbued with intense attachment. Lord Chaitanya quotes a very nice verse. He says, when one becomes attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, out of one's natural inclination, Not because, oh, he's God, I must worship him. Not that kind of a consideration. It was a natural, spontaneous inclination to love Krishna. And such intense inclination that one is always absorbed in thoughts of the Lord. Not just absorbed. Lord Chaitanya says it is not that they are just thinking of God always. No? Prahlad Maharaj is famous as always remembering Krishna. He perfected the method of remembrance. Lord Chaitanya says this is not even about always remembering Krishna. Always remembering Krishna is a secondary marginal characteristic of Ragatmika Bhakta. Marginal characteristic. What is their primary characteristic? It is deep attachment to the Lord. Their absorption is by deep attachment. Gudha, raga, gudha, intense. And devotional service, according to that kind of attachment, performed by the eternal associates of the spiritual world, is known as Ragatmika Bhakti. Prabhupada says Ragatmika Bhakti in simple English can be translated as spontaneous devotional service. Spontaneous. What does the word spontaneous mean? In English, the word spontaneous means one doesn't have to think, oh, now what should I do? Okay, now I should do like this. Correct? For example, if a lover meets his beloved or sees his beloved even from a far distance, love will automatically arise because of that intense attachment. It's not that the lover has to think, oh, now I got a facial recognition of my beloved. Now let me think, what am I supposed to do? Oh, I am actually in love. So, now I should show that I am in love. Let me act as if I am in love. One doesn't have to follow vidhi. Spontaneously one is attracted. And that spontaneity as a characteristic, which is not very formal, because when you have a spontaneous attraction, a very intimate spontaneous attraction to someone, the way we relate to that person is out of natural love. It is not a very formal, it is not very vidhi based protocol that one follows. So this kind of devotional services consists of raga. Raga equal to deep attachment is called ragatmika or spontaneous devotional service. If a sadhana bhakta who doesn't have that platform, who's not attained that platform, he in his heart is hankering to develop this kind of a raga atmika bhakti, then he's considered very, very fortunate. So developing pure love for God and going back to the spiritual world is one thing. But more than that, those who specifically are hankering, I want the kind of love which the eternal residents of Braja have. The Ragatmika Bhaktas of Braja have. Such people are considered especially fortunate. Because their attraction is not just that I want liberation, I just want to worship and I want to be in the spiritual world. I'm free from the cycle of birth and then nice time I'll have there, Kalpavriksha, Chintamani. I'll see Krishna, I'll render some little service. No, their whole situation goes, wow, this eternal associates, this Subal, this Sudama, how they are playing with Krishna. Wow, this is so attractive to my heart. They are so attracted to the Ragatmika Bhakta, and more specifically, they are attracted to the mood of a specific Ragatmika Bhakta of the spiritual world. And they are aspiring to develop the mood of that that specific Ragatmika Bhakta in that rasa. Correct? There are many rasas, right? Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, Madhurya. And even within that rasa, they have an inclination for a particular rasa, but even within that rasa, they are particularly attracted. When they read Bhagavatam, when they read the Bhakti literatures, they are especially attracted. Oh, this character is so wonderful. This Mother Yashoda is so wonderful. I want to serve Krishna like this. In fact, they are hankering to be an assistant or a follower of that Ragatmika Bhakta and serve Krishna accordingly, the spiritual. This kind of aspiration, where a sadhaka is attracted to a particular kind of Ragatmika devotee and wants to follow in their footsteps but hasn't yet attained bhava, but is impelled by the desire for that raga, though having not yet attained it, but impelled, attracted, and is practicing sadhana bhakti with that kind of an attraction. Such a sadhaka is known as raga anuga bhakta. Somebody is raga atmika, means their atma is already exhibiting raga. But raga anuga means following in the footsteps of raga. Follower. Anuga. So when a person is purified and when he hears Hari Katha, suddenly he feels attracted to serve Krishna in one of these ways. And that kind of drive to serve Krishna in a particular way is not based on Shastric reasoning. It is based on taste. It is based on a natural attraction. If somebody asks him, why you want to do this? He'll not give Shastric philosophical reasons. He says, I just to serve Krishna like this, this particular devotee, the way she serves Krishna every day. I want to be there. I want to be with this devotee and assist her to render this kind of service. This kind of a bhakti is known as raga. Again, the drive is not scriptural rules and regulations. It doesn't mean that such a devotee gives up all the rules and regulations because he's not a Mahabhagavat. He's not a liberated soul. He's still a sadhaka. But the drive to do bhakti is not coming from Shastra. They respect Shastra. They still study Shastra. They honor Shastra and they may externally be following Shastra also, and they should. But their excitement to learn render bhakti is not about, okay, this is my schedule and I need to do this because I want to develop. Just hankering to develop a particular kind of. So such kind of fortunate sadhakas, who through association with very advanced devotees have developed this kind of an attraction. This is great fortune to develop this kind of an attraction. This kind of attraction comes through sadhu sangha of great purified Mahabhagavats. Have this kind of a mood when we hear from them, or even when we hear from books like Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, somehow our heart gets attracted to a particular kind of rasa. The Raga Anuga Bhakta is thinking, the reflection of my life is to serve Krishna in this way. They are so focused. They are very focused. Raga Anuga. I want to follow this resident of Vraja. They are not hazy in that respect. They may not have attained love. They have not even attained a bhava. They are impelled. They are attracted. They are greedy. They have laulya. Goswami says, Tatra laulyam ekalam mulyam. What is the price of Krishna consciousness? In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami, it is not quoted here, elsewhere, we already discussed this. Tatra laulyam ekalam mulyam. What is the cost? The intense desire. There is no material cost for Krishna consciousness, no amount of punya, no amount of dana, tapasya, or anything else can give one bhakti, but the intense greed to have it. Now you will say, Prabhu, what punya I have to perform to develop intense greed? There is no punya which will give you intense greed. No austerity which will give you intense greed. Then what to do? What to do? When you hear Hari Katha from the lips of those who have intense attachment to the Lord, it awakens that kind of laulia desire. We go on hearing them and serving them, receive their blessings. When we take their association, and develop attraction. So if one is so fortunate to develop this kind of an attraction, and if one is fortunate to be guided by such a ragatmika bhakta, then one can adopt the practice of raga anuga sadhana. Lord Chaitanya then explains to Sanatana Goswami how raga anuga bhakti should be practiced. What is the practice of raga anuga bhakti? He says Raganuga Bhakti, even though they have intense attraction, these devotees generally do not just give up the practice of the rules and regulations of Bhakti. They typically have two kinds of practices that Raganuga Bhakti is practiced: external and internal. Externally, the Raganuga Bhakta still practices attending Mangalarti, chanting their rounds, worshipping the deity. Externally, it will appear as if they are like another Vaidi sadhana bhakta. But their drive of why they are doing like that to Krishna, they are not doing just based on scriptural rules and regulations. They are doing out of their intense attraction. But they are following the rules. But their drive is based on their taste. So that's an external practice. Externally, they practice all Shastric injunctions. But within their mind, because they are nurturing a particular rasa, they are nurturing the desire to serve a particular resident of Braja. They are internally contemplating on that aspect, internally meditating on those kind of pastimes, internally performing internal bhajan, which they will not discuss and publish outside. Chaitanya says the advanced devotee who is inclined for this kind of spontaneous loving service should follow the activities and study what that Ragatmika Bhakta does. What are his activities? How does he relate to Krishna? While externally executing the limbs of sadhana bhakti, internally from his spiritual position, his internal in his mind, he's trying to contemplate on how he can assist this eternal associate serving Krishna. So there is two kinds of service: external, internal. Internal within the mind until the spiritual body is awakened. Krishna actually can be served only with the spiritual body, which begins manifesting at the stage of bhava and fully manifests in the stage of prema. Sadhana bhakti means one is still dealing with body and mind, the external coverings of the soul. So initially there is mental bhajan of meditation on what is the rasa in which one wants to serve Krishna. And eventually when the spiritual body is actually awakened, bhava, and thereafter one actually enters into the divine pastimes of Radha and Krishna, even while one is in this body, and renders transcendental loving service to them in the spiritual body, even while one is still embodied. Our six Goswamis are examples of that. Because they are actually eternal associates of the Lord. They are not just Raganuga, they are actually Ragatmika Bhaktas. They are actually eternal recipients. So even when they were externally in this world, even though externally somebody sees, oh, Rup Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, so strict, following all rules and regulations. But externally, Seva sadhaka rupena siddha rupena chatrahi. That is the verse. Seva sadhaka roop. This is the sadhaka roop, material body mind. They are rendering seva according to rules and regulations externally, the Goswamis. Seva sadhaka rupena and siddha rupena chatrahi. What is the siddha rupa? Eternally, in their eternal position, internally their soul enters into the spiritual realm and renders service. Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami, there are so many pastimes which have been recorded. How in their internal meditations they would enter into the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, associate with Radha and Krishna in their eternal body, not with the male body, not with the external body, but with the eternal form. But those who are sadhakas, who are not ragatmika, internally, they may not be able to enter the pastimes because their spiritual body is not developed, but they can contemplate on their pastimes of what they are aspiring to develop as their mood, as guided by the self-realized spiritual master. And if one continues to practice Raganuga Bhakti in this way, under the guidance, eventually one's bhava towards Krishna in that particular mood, following in the footsteps of that Ragatmika Bhakta, will eventually develop, and one will achieve the realization of one's eternal position in the spiritual. This is the inner teaching of Krishna consciousness. Because ultimately, what is the objective of Gaudiya Vaishnavas? The objective of Gaudiya Vaishnavas is not just to become free from the cycle of birth and death, not simply to go to the spiritual world, but to be an assistant to the residents of Braja. Which assistant? To which devotee of Braja? That depends on what our heart yearns for. And what will our heart yearn for? It depends on what kind of devotees and what quality of devotees we associate with. That's why Sadhu Sangha is so important. All the more for those who want to develop a particular mood, because a particular spiritual mood cannot be developed simply by sadhana. If it is developing simply by sadhana, that means that mood was already developed, that inclination was already developed in past lives. But simply through sadhana, a newcomer cannot develop a particular inclination. There may be a general inclination of I want to surrender to God, I want to be free from the cycle of birth and death. But the desire, the genuine spiritual raga anuga mentality, the greed to develop a particular mood of one of the eternal associates will not develop unless one is fortunate to be blessed by very advanced devotees. And that blessing usually comes not just as a hand on the head, but that blessing comes when we humbly hear Hari Katha from the lips of such great souls. Lord Chaitanya concludes this chapter. He doesn't go into more detail. He just basically gives a brief hint because not everyone is qualified for this. Even though everyone should aspire for this, I think it should be clear from our discussion that this is not something which one can plan and do. It's not so easy. Most of us are in the stage of Vaidhi sadhana. But if somehow, through the association of some great souls, by hearing Hari Katha, if we are significantly purified and we are receive the blessings of great souls by hearing from them, that our Laulya is awakened, our Lobha. Our greatest fortune in Krishna consciousness is to develop that greed. If somebody has even a flavor of that greed, one is considered very, very fortunate. And that greed is such a thing that impelling of that greed is so much that one can give up. One is not impelled by Shastra anymore. Yes, Shastra will also say surrender to Krishna, but they are saying, no, I am not surrendering to Krishna because Shastra is saying, I am surrendering to him because I love him so much. I am so attracted. I want to be like this. Just impelled. So Lord Chaitanya concludes this chapter. He says that this kind of love, if one can develop, if one takes this path and develops this kind of love, then the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes under the control of such a devotee. Through Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, no one can control the Lord. If one develops the mood of one, following in the footsteps of one of the residents of Braja, and develops intense attachment, which is sometimes known as Rati or also known as Bhava. Rati and Bhava mean the same thing. Once when develops Rati or Bhava, the Raganuga comes to that Bhava, that Rati can actually control the Supreme. Lord Chaitanya concludes the chapter by saying, now I have described to you the process of Abhideya. Abhideya means the execution of devotional skills. And especially within Abhideya, I have described to you Sadhana Bhakti. And within Sadhana Bhakti, I have described to you two branches, Vaidhi Sadhana, Raganuga Sadhana. I have described briefly. It is so unlimited. But Sanatan, please understand this. Special blessing for all those who made the special effort to join this class. Special blessing. That's the good thing about Chaitanya Charitamrita. I mean, of course, in Bhagavatam also so many blessings. Chaitanya Charitamrita's blessings are even more attractive for us because they're more aligned with our desire. Whoever hears this description of the process of the practical devotional service very soon attains shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna in love and affection. Hopefully, you are not just connected on Zoom. Hopefully, all of you are also listening. If you didn't listen, too bad. That is the blessing with which Lord Chaitanya ends this chapter. And that's why my concluding remarks, that's why it's so important. Within the process of bhakti, association is so important because the color of one's heart, whoever we hear from, whoever we associate from, the color of their heart will rub off on us. If they are great souls, it will rub off on us in a positive way. If they are nasty souls, then it will rub off on us in a negative way. We partake the consciousness of those whom we hear from with a open heart. That's why it is said one should not associate intimately with materialistic people because the color of their heart, which is black, out of material attachment. When if they are religious, because they are materially attached, their color will rub off on our heart. And similarly, the opposite direction, if we hear from those who have special attraction to Krishna, deep attachment to Krishna, their attachment to Krishna will rub off on us. That is why the process of association never stops. The process of hearing and discussing about Krishna and Krishna Katha never ends. It only becomes more and more specific when taste develops. Because when taste develops, one is interested in listening to a specific kind of rasa more and more and more. Of course, right now we are maybe neophytes and we may be listening to everything, and it's fine. Even sadhak, even Raganuga Bhaktas, they appreciate all Leelas. It's not that they say, oh, I will not listen to Prahlad, I will not listen to Dhruva. Lord Chaitanya would be excited with Prahlad and Dhruva's pastimes. Eternally, his own relish was in remembering the pastimes of Radha and okay. So I'm going to conclude here. This is a very exalted topic because Lord Chaitanya has mentioned it. I am simply repeating it. No, I am not qualified, but at least we should be aware that what is our goal, and what our parampara is ultimately aiming give to all of us. Yeah. Okay. I'm opening up for questions. Yes, Suresh Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu Dhanatana.
Hare
Prabhu, I
Krishna.
have two questions maybe. All
Hmm.
this subject matter which you taught us, right? Raganuga, Bhakti, all those things. Is there a representation, Prabhu, for us to understand?
Representation is very simple, right? I explained to you. From a diagrammatic perspective, it is very simple.
Okay.
You have 3 stages of bhakti.
Hmm.
Right. Let's try. Of whiteboard. New whiteboard. Okay. Can you all see?
Yeah. Whiteboard is loading, Prabhu.
Okay. So, it's as simple as this is sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti. I know there is a text box there. I'm just being lazy. There is prema bhakti. Okay. This is a
Okay.
incremental process.
Okay.
Okay. Within sadhana, there are 2 parts. Okay. There is this text box. There is Vaidhi and there is Raga. If one starts with Vaidhi Bhakti, does not develop attraction to Raga, one will still progress. One will still progress and achieve prema, but it will be Aishwarya prema. Okay. Aishwarya prema means typically one goes up to Vaikuntha. One's bhav of emotion is also invoked, but the invoking of emotion is not of the higher rasas of Raja. One can still go back to Godhead, more likely in Vaikuntha. But if one is fortunate to develop Raganuga, then within Raganuga, one can develop in one of the rasas, Shanta. Usually Shanta doesn't come under Raganuga, but it is in theory possible, even though anyway, I don't want to go into technicalities. Just for 5 years for the sake of simplicity. Not complicated. Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. Correct? Within this rasas, one will have a, let's say within Madhurya, one follows a specific associate. Specific eternal Ragatmika Bhakta. So here one is impelled by Shastra. Here one is impelled by what? Read for a mood of a Ragatmika Bhakta. Okay?
Yeah.
If one follows this path, then also one achieves prema, but that prema is Raja, Prema in mood of Ragat. Okay, this is a simple chart.
Yep.
Any other question?
Another small question, Prabhu. This Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojan, right, Prabhu? That deities you had explained once. Can you please repeat, Prabhu? I forgot.
Sambandha is Madan Mohan, Abhideya is Radha Govinda, and
Okay.
Prayojan is Radha Gopinath.
Okay. Yeah, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I will stop the board. Can I remove the board?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, anyway, Prabhu, Sridhar Prabhu, you can go ahead and ask your question. I'm just trying to figure out.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Prana. So Prabhuji, in order to be in this, in any of these 5 rasas, so it depends upon the Mahabhagavata from which we hear, right?
Yes. Ideally, the best is to hear from those who have that attraction. Sometimes it comes also, it gets nourished by reading about those Mahabhagavata eternal associates from Shastra, like Srimad Bhagavatam. That is also nourishing. But the best way to acquire that mood is to hear from the lips of those who already have that. That is the best.
Yeah, Prabhuji. So like, so it depends upon them only. So for example, if they are in the Madhurya rasa, so we will be more attracted to in that particular rasa, correct, Prabhu?
Yes. Our attraction for rasa is based on our association. Correct?
Yeah,
I mean,
thank you,
like this,
Prabhuji.
if we associate with drunkards, we want to drink. So if the drunkards are into beer drinking, we will also like beer drinking. If they like Johnny Walker, then we'll also start drinking Johnny Walker. They are into old monk rum, then we probably will get into, or champagne, whatever it is. I haven't tasted.
Yeah,
So
thank you, Prabhuji.
association is very important. Yes.
Hare
Okay.
Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you. Haribol. Okay. Anything else? Haribol, Sunil Madhav Prabhu, thank you for joining. Okay, so if there's nothing else, we can conclude and we will. It's coming Saturday. What date is it? 9, 10.
10.
Okay. Saturday should be. Yeah. Last Saturday we had the Rath Yatra. Okay, so thank you so much. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Shri Rupa Sanatana ki jai, Shri Rupa Raghunatha Pade Uive Akuti. So thank you, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveda Gaurav.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Sundar Prabhu.
Thank you,
Thank
Prabhuji.
you,
Hare Krishna.
Shalini ji, Suraj Prabhu, Sini,
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sunil Madhav.